I'm calling the meeting to order tonight at 5:05 p.m. Jennifer, please take the roll.
Catherine Hamilton.
Present.
Nadar Ali.
Present.
Wallace Way.
Yes.
Joe Randall.
Present.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to adopt tonight's agenda?
I so move. I second.
Please take the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ali.
Yes.
Way.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
And do we have approval for the previous meeting minutes for our regular meeting on May 23rd, 2022?
I move. I second.
I second.
Please take the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ali.
Yes.
Way.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll move into oral communications from the public. This is for issues that are or are not on the agenda using the call-in number. Jennifer, is anyone on the line?
No, I've had to call it for 10 minutes. There's no one on the line.
You are the only one here.
Thank you. We'll move to items for discussion and action, item 3A, and this is approving our virtual meeting pursuant to Government Code Section 54953E. Do we have a motion?
I so move.
I second.
Thank you. Please take the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ali.
Yes.
Way.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
And we'll move into items for information and discussion, beginning with Arlita Albaran, our principal from Ingenium Charter Middle School. Arlita, welcome.
Thank you. I made a video and Chris is going to play it for us. Thank you, Chris.
I'll encourage everyone to mute so we can watch this together.
Alvaran, and I'm the principal at Ingenium Charter Middle School. For today's board update, I will be talking about ICMS's presentations and celebrations. I'm happy to announce that we reached 97% of ELA math and CAST testing, state testing. This is the first time that we completed in-person state testing since before the pandemic. And I'm very grateful to the team, the home office team members, Maria and Katie, who supported in this. We created a testing schedule that allowed for students to test in their advisory classes. We also had a makeup schedule. We provided SBAC training for teachers and staff who was going to support and proctor. And we had student pump-up activities. And I'm going to share a video that our student council created.
Hi, I'm Mario Flores, and I'm going to be interviewing Eric and asking him some SBAC questions. So, Eric, how can you prepare for the SBAC?
So by practicing the SBAC practices that we get, advisory class using the test taking strategies. That's how we can prepare for the SBAC, and that's all I can do.
Okay, thank you. That was a very good response. Thank you.
What are some test-taking strategies you know?
Some test-taking strategies that I know would be chewing gum so you don't get distracted, and another one would be getting a paper and doodling so you don't get distracted. Well, that would distract you, but so you can focus.
Oh, that's very nice.
Hi, I'm Marielle Flores, and I'm going to be interviewing Summer with some SBAC questions. So, what do you think the SBAC stands for?
I think it stands for Smarter Balanced Assessment.
Okay, good job. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Stephanie, and this is Marielle, and I'm going to ask her a question. When is the SBAC?
I think the SBAC is next week, on Tuesday, to be exact. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Mario Flores, and I'm here with Alma to ask her some SBAC questions. So, how can you prepare for the SBAC?
You could practice math, do dream box, and for English, you could read a lot so you can understand the questions better.
Okay, thank you. Good answer. Thank you.
The next celebration I want to talk about is our reclassification. This is the first time ever that we had a reclassification party. Thanks to Maria, Megan, Irina, and David, who are our EOD teachers, Irina and David, we were able to reclassify more students than we have before at ICMS, and they helped coordinate a reclassification party for the students who reclassified.
So, everyone, you are invited here today because you are reclassifying from ELD. Congratulations. That means you have passed all the requirements. You will no longer need to attend ELD class and no longer take the LCAP. You are English proficient. So congratulations to all of you. We are really excited about your progress, your hard work, your commitment, your integrity, your dedication. Congratulations to you all. And with that, we invite you to celebrate with us. Yeah. So give yourselves a round of applause.
Yay! How do you feel?
And again, I think some of you know that we continued the work that we were doing with ensemble learning and some of our school-wide aims and goals, not just tied to our ELs, but also to all of our students. But our ELD program was restructured this year. We had we had a reading intervention teacher, but who was also our EOD teacher for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade students, and Mr. Esparza was also teaching EOD for 7th and 8th grade students. So thank you all. Our school counselor connected with Strength United, which is a program sponsored by CSUN. She worked with the coordinator there to provide a session for our 7th and 8th grade students on defining safe and caring friendships and relationships, overcoming gender stereotypes, and how to deal with different emotions. These sessions were conducted the last 2 weeks of school. As we notice, more kids having relationships or dealing with peer conflicts. We hope that this supported them in how to cope with things and being able to decide on what is a healthy and what is a not healthy relationship with somebody. So special thanks to Ms. Aparicio. As some of you know, we use STYLE as our science curriculum. STYLE came the last week of school to videotape one of our teachers teaching science, Ms. Ledesma, who did not teach science this school year, but did teach it before during the pandemic, volunteered to be videotaped while she conducted a science lesson. And this year we had our ICS 5th graders take a trip to our school, ICMS. They got an opportunity to participate in music class with Ms. Ledesma. They watched the conversion of Dry Eyes with Mr. O'Brien. They participated in a quiz activity with Ms. Mendez, and they played flag football with Coach Wickwer. And additionally, they had a huddle with our student council. We hope that many of them enroll at ICMS after their tour here. We had end of year celebrations in all of our grade levels, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. All teachers and advisories planned end of year celebrations with their students so that everybody can celebrate together their accomplishments and finishing the school year, especially with all the challenges that this year brought. We had a 6th grade Olympics. We had game days. We had students making slime, and we had movie days. And finally, I am happy that we had a chance to culminate our class of 2022 in person at school. Students had a chance to walk the stage. Our student council had presentations. We gave students a medal for completing the school year. And we had all students walk the stage and celebrate together as they finished their middle school years. And that is ICMS updates. Any questions?
Thank you so much. Questions about any of the items Arlita shared or anything else for her as she joins us today? Based on your reclassification party, what do you know roughly what percentage you're looking at?
I want to say it's higher than 10%. I don't know exactly how high.
Somewhere in the teens?
Somewhere in the teens, yes. I think Katie knows.
I just want to chime in. I think it's closer to 15, although most of that is a large percentage is due to the work that Ms. Donato, Ms. Parks, and Ms. Abadan did towards the alternate reclassification process. So, and that's a really good story I could talk about later. But worked out really well this year and helped aid towards that.
That's great. At the middle school level, that's extremely important. So nice job. Any other questions? I want to really appreciate your taking the chance to show us all these highlights, especially at the end of the year. That's what we want to be doing, is celebrating. And it's exciting that you took the time. Now that we're back in person, you could actually have a culmination to do all those activities, get students excited about being in person at school. So definitely really exciting. Thank you for sharing. And the videos, I love middle school humor. Like, their sense of humor is really funny. And thank you for sharing that with us.
Thank you.
With that, we will move on to our next few items that are, excuse me, for questions. So we have seen the presentation, the linked presentation for the monthly financial report. Are there questions for Lee and or Nick or Jake? All right, not seeing questions. I'd like to take a moment to appreciate Lee and the partnership and support for Ingenium over the past few years. It's been wonderful to get updates and again, see the support that you've provided. So from the board, we wanted to thank you and just send you all the best wishes in all of your continued work.
Well, thank you very much. It's been an honor to work with you all.
Thank you, Lee. We'll move into item C, our teacher advisory or TAP panel update. Again, there is a linked presentation and Melody is here to answer any questions. I have a question, but I will pause if other board members have anything they'd like to ask or share. I have two questions, Melody. You noted that there was really a difference in behavior being a focus a couple of years ago, and that moving away from that, is that the nature of like the concerns the teachers had, or the nature of kind of the realm with which the teacher advisory panel was operating and kind of the focus of that?
Yeah, great question. I think it speaks to the amount of focus and dedication that was put on creating sustainable systems that were unified across all campuses. And the great work that the tier 1 and tier 2 teams have done. And I'm sure Jake and some others could speak more to that. And I know the board's aware of a lot of that work. But what was remarkable is just seeing that dramatic shift in when we set up those sustainable systems. We saw such a dramatic difference about what were the issues that employees had. And we really stopped hearing about behavior altogether, and which is interesting in coming back from COVID, when we know teachers were struggling with behavior. We heard a lot of teachers just anecdotally talking about how hard it was, but I think they felt the support of the systems, which is why it was never a red button issue. Because although they were seeing a lot of behaviors in the classroom, I think hopefully most teachers were feeling supported. So.
Thank you. That's a really helpful update, because it's been something we have been talking about for the past 4 years. So Very helpful. I was also hoping you might, I noticed you are expanding to include other staff. Is that all roles? Is it bringing in specific classified school-based staff? What are those shifts that you all have in mind?
So it's interesting. We had originally kind of thought of splitting the two groups and keeping TAP and then having a classified panel. But the feedback that we actually got from the teachers on TAP was, well, we're talking to them anyway, and we may as well bring in some folks to represent themselves and just keep it all as one group. So it'll be kind of an experiment for next year. I don't think we have any limitations set on who could participate, and it'll be interesting to see what kind of interest we get amongst the different employee groups. We will probably have to cap the size of it due to just, like considerations of time and everything. So yeah, we'll see.
Great, thank you. Other questions or comments for Melody? Well, thank you for the thorough update and the work that you and Jesse have been doing all year to run the group. It's good to see, where the concerns are in progress, completed, and just that's staying alive and also expanding. So we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will move to item 4D, the internal metrics, with Katie, trimester 3 benchmark report, summative LPAC data. Katie is here with us, and we will pause for questions or comments. Katie, it looks like there are a few, I'm going to ask this in two ways. There are a few bright spots, and then there are a few places where the data is showing that unnecessary kind of area of focus. So you can start in either of those places, but are there trends regarding curriculum, as you've been in classrooms, things that you are thinking about replicating or kind of using as models for those bright spots, and things that you're thinking about, addressing both curriculum, classroom based, for areas where that data might have been a little lower than you all would want?
Yes, thank you for asking. That's a great question. I'll start with bright spots because I'm thinking about how to leverage some of those strengths, and we've already been talking about it. We have seen some great growth, specifically 5th and 8th grade. And so getting in, and that's like academically speaking in ELA and in math, but in terms of growth, and then also in achievement, I specifically think that it's worth taking note that our middle schools have been using the same curriculum. But I think specifically in math, they saw the largest jumps. And so asking a little bit more what they have been doing to supplement or additional work with Open Up resources. I know Clarion saw a huge jump, and they had some additional professional development support this year. In terms of an additional bright spot is our LPAC results. I think there are a couple of slides already highlighted for ICS 6th or kindergarten and 5th grade. Had a large number of students who received 4s, as well as one of the largest groups of kindergartners we've had receive 3s. So on the verge of getting those 4s, which is indicator of reclassification. And we've already started and plan to continue interviewing those teachers. They accredit a lot of it to the use of the SIPS curriculum, as well as their intentional. All of the kindergarten teachers at ICS also include some instruction, or at least directions, in Spanish, and really acknowledging and supporting the home language. And so that's a large factor. I think that we can think about how to apply that to our other schools and their supportive English learners, especially since that's a growing population at Box and at Clarion. And then particularly the 5th grade group at ICS, they had a very targeted CUSP support for students that were on the cusp of reclassification. We really identified those students, and they worked with one of their interventionists, Ms. Coronado and Ms. Donato, to put together a plan, and they saw 6 out of 9, could be a little bit more than that, of their students are going to reclassify, received a 4 and are set to reclassify. So that's a nice target group that shows the work that can be done when you're targeting the support for those students. And then I think in some of the other areas, we saw math had some improvements in general, which is great to see. But because math had typically been an area where we needed more support in the past, especially last year. But we're going to be working on streamlining a little bit more about Ingenium's approach to literacy, thinking about how we approach reading from the foundational skills through incorporation of workshop, but acknowledging some of the newer materials that are out there. And we've been doing some work, and we'll plan to do some work over the summer to help address that, so there's less of a steep climb to using the resources next year.
Thank you. Other questions for Katie?
Hey, Katie, I just have a technical question. For the RTI growth on the y-axis, what is the unit? It's from, for example, for the school-wide, it's from 0 to 18. So what do these numbers mean?
I muted myself, sorry. Can everyone hear me? The RIT score is the MAPS score. It's their way of classifying growth. And so that range is the growth in RIT score from one test to the next. So those, if you're looking at like page 5, for example, and it says RIT growth, you're trying to have a higher number, but typically it doesn't usually surpass 12, or sorry, 16 is sort of like the highest, and then the lower grades, there's expecting a higher growth, versus in the upper grades, they expect a little less growth. You can see the diamonds sort of going down just because growth is more observable in the lower elementary. And so that's what those are, is literally how many RIT points are the students growing from one test to the next. And it's following the same group of students from their first test in the fall to the one in the spring. So you can see like 5th grade surpassed what are the grade level norms. 5th grade math at ICS, I think I'm looking at. Yeah.
Does that translate to a certain time period? For example, 12 would translate to 1 year's growth. So is there any corresponding relationship between the number and the passage of time?
I could find that out for you, because typically it sometimes changes based on what the MAP report is. So I'll find that out and I'll send it over. If there's like a typical, I think it does depend on the grade level. So like certain grade levels would expect a higher number versus lower grade or upper grade levels would expect a smaller number for growth per year.
So the expected growth rate is just it is the national average or state average. So how is that number? Okay.
Yeah, it's based on nationwide norms for all of our or all the districts that use the MAP NWEA as their verified data.
I see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
On the LPAC scores, do you have you all yet looked at your anticipated like EL progress indicator? Like, so the kids that aren't 4s, how many of them have grown a level or more?
We haven't done that yet, only because we just got the final scores in. Literally, I think we checked Friday evening, and they had it.
They told us that I should not have asked this question. I'm sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. Actually, this is the earliest we've ever had the summative LPAC results. I think we were waiting for some, and I didn't put it in there, but you can see sort of the completion of the reports. And so some are either due to CalPADS delays, but one is due to just the materials being sent a little later and not receiving them. So once we do, we'll be able to give more firm. That's why even like the reclassification rate, I say, looking at the EL progress monitoring, we're approximating that it would be around 15. So yeah, we do plan on doing that. I'm looking at that as well.
I ask because I'm also like, obviously students earning 4s is very exciting, but there are so many 3s and even a lot of 2s, and I'm like, is that a exciting, like, students have grown there? Is it, because on its own, while it's hopeful because they can soon be 4s, with the context of, is that a growth, is like doubly exciting. So I'm just curious.
My hunch is yes, it is. And I know that just from our work, but I would like to give you the more detailed report later.
You can also refer me to the California dashboard in September as well.
Oh, that would be nice eventually.
Any other questions for Katie?
Can I just mention, I know, thankfully our LEDA mentioned that ICMS hit 97%. I think on page 27, you'll see all of our schools reach the required 95% and above for all of their statewide testing. And then immediately after that went into trimester 3 benchmark testing to hit 95. So they worked really hard to get that through makeup testing, et cetera. And especially with some COVID spikes. So big shout out to our schools receiving those 95% and above.
Yeah, I want to really celebrate the work you all are doing. And I know Maria Donato is doing a lot of work with not only the academic piece, but the like celebrating that multilingualism piece and honoring students who are reclassifying as, you know, not just becoming English proficient, but those students are now amazing multilingual people in our world. And so just really excited for the work you all continue to do. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
And we will move into item E, our Joy at Work presentation, and Melody will take any questions from that presentation.
I just need some help, Melody, figuring out what the overall promoter score indicates to us. I can see some fluctuations from a year ago to now, and I'm just wondering what the factors that are involved in it and what does it mean to you?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So what I've been told, and Jake knows a little bit more kind of about maybe the industry standard on the ENPS, but from what I'm understanding is that any score that's positive, so anything above 0 is a score to feel good about. Anything that's in the negative zone is when we'd be a little bit more concerned. And for a while, we were just tracking the data, you know, looking at it more from the organization point. But as I noted with the KPI in our dashboard, we're drilling down by school site. And so some of our schools where we noticed a consistently negative score, the leaders went back to the staff with the data and showed them. And Anne-Marie Smith did a really cool activity with her staff where she had, you know, you saw the drivers and then the preventers of what would drive you to promote and what would prevent you. And so so that's kind of looking at it school by school. We want every school to be positive, and as an organization we want to be positive. And then anytime we're seeing some consistently negative trends, we want to have our leaders dig in with our employees to figure out what can turn this around and what is preventing us from recommending this as a place to work.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to add anything, Jake, but.
Yeah, I would just add, it's been challenging to find, there's a lot of information out there about what's typical for an ENPS score, but not as much specifically about an education organization. So, you know, we're kind of going off of what's available out there. And like Melody said, anything above 0 would be considered good. The goal is just to get it better, to, you know, to increase it over time. Have also read that anything above 30 is excellent. So we just want to have more and more people that would recommend us versus not.
So all your school leaders are engaged in monitoring that at any given point, right?
Yeah, and I would say we started to focus on that with them more recently. So that's probably why we saw it lagging and a bit negative for a while is we're trying to really systematize data culture and looking at data systematically, and especially the joy at work data. So I think as we continue to focus on that and monitor it, we'll continue to see improvement.
Okay. Thank you, Mel.
No problem.
Any other questions for Melody? Well, I appreciate that you all do this. I work with a lot of schools, and there isn't an opportunity for feedback and voice, and that would make a lot of folks happier at work to just have that opportunity. And so not only do employees have the opportunity to have that voice, but that they're also being, asked when things aren't going well, what can be done. There's a lot of collaboration, and I think this is a great way that you all really live your core values. So thank you. And thank you for sharing. And then we'll move to item F. I'm not sure if you're starting, Melody, but Melody, Nick, and Marissa are going to go ahead and present to us. We haven't had a chance to look at family and student surveys, and so I asked them to present this just because this is a data point we haven't seen in a while or had more authentically in a while. So go ahead.
Yeah, I'm happy to. All right, let me go ahead and share my screen here. And, all right, so go into slideshow mode. All right, so we're going to look at our staff data. So this is the same panorama survey that we gave last year. It's compared to national benchmarks. This year, the only thing we changed is our CMO did not participate. Last year, our CMO participated. A lot of the questions are really geared toward the school site. So I had a lot of feedback that it felt uncomfortable for our CMO employees. And so we made that switch. Our participation rate, even though we had fewer people participating, was about the same as last year. So around 85%, and that's to be expected. Some people are on a leave of absence and things like that. So we probably won't ever see a total 100% participation unless we could get everyone there, which would be awesome. So we had some bright spots. I think this survey data showed us that, and we heard from a lot of people just around the globe that this was a tough year. One thing we felt really proud of was some of the feedback we got on the organization-wide changes. So to be 10 points up is definitely statistically significant in this case, and really shows that we've been focusing on our value of communication. And then our other, even though we saw a moderate change here that may or may not be statistically significant, and still an 83% level of confidence in our cabinet level leadership. Same with living our core values. That's up 2 points. Again, that could be about the same there, but a really great percentage of confidence from our classified staff in our top leadership. So we felt really proud of that. Same thing for the teacher survey. Again, some strong percentages here. Again, up 9% from last year about organization-wide changes that are communicated. So again, honoring that value of communication. And then this just feels really great. I can trust what this organization tells me to have an 83% response rate, and that's not moved the needle from last year. Just shows that we've been working on consistency and being transparent and clear in messaging. And so we feel really proud of that. Another bright spot is educating all students. So again, although not a significant change from last year, the teacher data on educating all students shows that 7 out of the 9 indicators for this area are 73% or higher on educating all students. And this year we added our equity value. I know Maria's done a lot of great work in her areas with making sure everyone is educated. We've started at the top doing our work with focusing on incorporating student voice more. And so this was just, I thought, really a neat indicator of where we are and an area that we can continue to look for growth in. So area for support. So school climate it was interesting making the survey, and last year seeing our bright spot was school climate. And last year we were ranked in the 80th percentile as compared to other benchmarks. And it really took a hit this year. So this was last year. We were in the 80th to 99th percentile for school climate. And we saw a dramatic decrease in that on the teacher and classified surveys. So if we just looked at that metric, it was down quite a few points. And then again, here, this is where we are just as compared to that national average, we're down to the 40th percentile. So I know, like I said, I think this survey shows that this year was just a really difficult year. You know, I don't have to remind everybody about, you know, how kids came back and second graders, you know, were exhibiting some behaviors that were atypical for that grade level based on their amount of time out of school. And so I think our schools felt that as a whole. And these are just the more specifics if you wanted to dig into, well, what does school climate get at? You can kind of look through here and see where those fall. And then another area for support was just resources. This was low last year. It was low again. I brought it up because it came back on some of the feedbacks that our principals did when sharing this data out with their staff. They talked about, and Anne-Marie shared with me a great plan she already has in place to work on resources for teachers. So it was really cool to see our principals already focusing, using this data to inform decisions and work on their school improvement plans. So again, this is just if you wanted to dig into what does resources mean, all the questions that feed into that. And then the other thing with the resources is was mentioned, I mean, staffing was a real struggle this year. We had more turnover than we've ever seen this year, more absences than we've ever seen, more sub requests unfulfilled. And so a lot of that just, you know, showed up in strain. This is if you wanted to just see where our schools were at. ICMS was mainly in the green, and that's another real bright spot and a testament to the strong systems that they had set up in place over there. And so this is just a kind of the breakdown in percentage where each of our schools fell. So what's next is really to celebrate and improve. So each of our principals shared these results with their team, and they received feedback. And these are two of the examples. So Janae ran a gallery walk with her staff. They walked around the room, they reviewed the data, and they completed parking lots having to do with each of the data that they reviewed. And I believe Janae plans to incorporate some of that feedback into her school improvement plan. Same for Anne-Marie. She already shared a plan with me, which was really amazing and just very cool to see. She used her ILT to support in running some feedback groups for staff. And so that is our staff data. So I will take any questions or comments.
I like the thoroughness of this report. There were quite a few questions that came up for me at the beginning of the presentation, and this last couple of pages really answered it. I like the, and one of my questions was going to be, was there a narrative portion attached to the survey where they could be more specific about what were their likes and dislikes or their observations about their feelings on each one of these questions?
I don't believe so. And so that's why it's so great that our leaders already started digging into to, you know, kind of get at how can we want you to be happy. We want to be proud of all of this. And so what do we need to do to shift some of this? So it was just really neat. And our leaders are using quality tools to engage our staff, which was another exciting thing to see. So I'm really excited to present next year to kind of have a through line to like, hey, this is what we said we wanted to work on as a school, and this is, you know, now we're seeing the results of it. So
Can't wait. All right,
Yeah.
thank you,
You're
Melanie.
welcome. Thanks.
Melody, was there anything that came up on the survey that was surprising, given that you have these other touch points throughout the year of joy at work, net promoter, teacher advisory panel? Were there, I guess, are there things that seem like they fell through the cracks that the survey caught that your other systems didn't?
I mean, I think the one thing that really stood out to me was, at least, and this is just based on a lot of the information that I saw from Amory's, is really, it was things that were out of people's control. So, you know, people being pulled from their positions to do other positions because there's just not enough staff, or, you know, COVID was just really, really hard. And when you don't have enough bodies in the school and you feel like you're trying your best to do everything you can. Yeah, so a big feeling I got was a lot of it was things that were out of our control. Now, some of it is better systems for resources, and I think those are things that we can fix to make sure our teachers feel supported and have the resources that they need. So, but nothing that like totally shocked me. I mean, I guess what just validated was like, wow, this was a really hard year for people. And this survey I felt their pain in the survey.
Yeah, I'm curious because I completely agree. It's been a hard year for every school I've worked with across the country. Why your then survey results fell so dramatically when some of these challenges have existed across the country. And I wonder if there's also like an openness of staff to be honest in your surveys, which I think is in a weird way is a really positive thing. But just curious about, I think the work that will go into getting back to the levels you were at and some of the positive indicators. So
Yeah.
I appreciate the reflectiveness. It's you know, it's disheartening when you know it's been a tough year, but I think a lot of the questions around foundational things have a really positive, really positive numbers about trust and communication and your core values. So I think there's a lot of positive there.
The other thing I wondered too, Catherine, was we did pull out the CMO, and if you look at CMO data, our CMO data tends to be really positive too. So I wondered how pulling out that group may have, we may have been inadvertently inflating scores. So it's not comparing apples to apples necessarily, because we did remove a group of people. That was the only other thing that I kind of thought about, is like, I wonder how that impacted the scores.
Yeah. And it could, if it felt necessary, Panorama might be able to pull that for you from last year's or the year before. But no, but a lot of positive kind of next steps too. Are we passing it to Nick and Marissa, or Marissa?
I'll be sharing for Marissa. She's out today.
Okay.
But I just got an error message on sharing. Nick, let me try one more time. Hang on here.
I have it up. I can share it for you if you like.
Oh, I got it. Thank you. So I'm going to do my best going through this. If board members have any questions, we'll take those down, and then I'll follow up with Marissa, and we can circle back. So both the slide decks are combined into one here for the student and the family school relationships. So we had a nice increase in participation, which is great, up just a little over 50%. Similar to the staff surveys, you can see that school climate and safety are opportunities for improvement. It was nice to see that students feel a sense of belonging, and the positive with teacher-student relationships in the elementary grades. I would say, if we look at school climate and school safety, I'm just going to kind of skip down here, if you don't mind, for a moment. You had asked earlier about, or Melody had presented and shared earlier that behavior was not as much of a red button topic in the TAP. But as you can see here, from a student perspective, there are some issues with behavior that they're noticing. And so that's something that we need to bring back to them and get some input. But I also, Marissa's working on, even though we've seen improvements with behavior from everywhere from our ODR dashboards to the what we saw in TAP, we still believe that's an area to strengthen. And so we're building out school-wide PBIS plans for each school next year. And we've hired a coach for each school to come in and support with training staff and improving plans. So we believe that will address some of the concerns there that kids had around the climate and sense of safety. Any questions? I'm not sure that I'll be able to answer them at the moment, but okay, I'll pass it on to Nick. Nick, do you want to present or just tell me where to go?
No, it's fine. You can either way,
Okay.
but I already have it up. So yes, this survey was the family and school relationship survey. And so this specifically went out to families. The number of participants went up a couple percentage points. And we also reduced the number of questions significantly. So last year, there was a lot of feedback that 65 questions was a bit too much. And so this year we went down to 18. And I think that helped increase the response rate. As you can see, and I pulled out the summary right on that page, there's certainly some areas for improvement, especially in the family engagement area. I don't think that's any surprise for all of us. School fit and the school safety certainly are areas that we can work on. School safety as compared to the others nationally, we're down in the bottom. At least the perception of it is. And if you go to the next slide, I thought it was important to include what the specific questions were because they're such broad categories. So for engagement, it's everything from do we meet with the school teachers and how often, to helping out at school, fundraising efforts, so on and so forth. Go to the next slide. Continued questions. Have you been involved with a parent group in the past year? How often have you discussed your child's school with other parents from the school? That's not something that a lot of our schools have the structure set up for. So again, I'm not particularly surprised that engagement isn't a high point. However, go to the next slide. Oh, I must have it further down. Or it disappeared somewhere. Oh, no, there's one. There should be one in there that says I think it's missing a slide. Slide, unless it's in slide 12. It is missing a slide. So some of the things that we're doing on the engagement side include to try to increase this number. We've reworked the parent liaison role. We've renamed it to be a family engagement specialist, specifically so that it highlights and focuses on family engagement. And we've taken a lot of the focus off of the shared office support part of that role. So they're going to be working with me in a split role to focus on engagement, to increase communication with families between the school and the family, help facilitate conversations and communications through social and online groups, hosting or being a part of in-person events, community outreach, working with me on recruiting and enrollment, and really just all of that in a focus, a larger focus to refine and increase the level and quality of communication and engagement with the families. Now on the school fit, that is up 10% from last year. So these questions are, how much of a sense of belonging does your child feel at school? Given your child's cultural background, how good is the fit at school? How would you rate the teaching styles? You can see most of those numbers are pretty favorable, and that's certainly an area where I think we're doing well, but of course there's always room for improvement. And then on school safety, the questions are, how often do you worry about violence at your school site? It shouldn't be too surprising that the safety was somewhat split, because this survey happened to go out right around the time of the shooting in Texas. So people were still answering the questions after that happened. I do like to see the question, how likely is it that someone at your child's school will bully him or her online? Is not likely. And overall, how unsafe does your child feel at school? And the majority, 56% said that not at all unsafe. At the same time, we know that that is an issue, and we continue to look at additional options, services, and systems and training to increase the safety at our schools. And are there any questions?
Just on the safety issue, do we, this is some ignorance from not having the opportunity to visit at all the schools prior. What do we do? What steps do we take to ensure a secure campus?
Each school is a little different because of how they're co-located in campuses. Yeah. For example, ICS and ICMS can lock their gates during the day. Box and Clarion, the way it's set up is they leave one of the gates unlocked because there's another gate that students would have to go through to leave, typically. Of course, we do regular trainings. Each school has a training plan, and they do training exercises and drills. And then one of the things that we are working on continue to work on is really dialing in and refining our responses when something happens. And what we noticed this year, or what happened this year, there were multiple instances that weren't on our school site specifically, but impacted our school site. So, how do we respond to those in a way that makes sense and is urgent, but at the same time isn't quite as emergency driven as something that might happen at that specific school site?
Now, I know for some schools with LA Unified, they normally have some kind of an agreement or direct line when there's a lockdown happening somewhere else, that the school is automatically alerted by the local police precinct. And I'm wondering, does that, because we are on a couple of LA USD campuses, does that extend to us? I imagine it would, but do you know of such a thing? Or have you heard of it?
I don't know about the LAUSD schools. I know that with our Compton schools, they have a direct communication with the other schools that are on site, and they just either literally walk over or call. They all have an emergency walkie-talkie that's supposed to be on all the time that each school has, and if something happens, they communicate through that.
Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Nadar,
Given-
also just to follow up on that, after the unfortunate tragedy in Texas, we are taking an opportunity to revisit and answer some questions that we feel need to be better answered. So we're Jennifer did a kind of an initial brainstorm after reviewing a few items in our safety plans, and then Arlita, in her new role moving forward, is going to be taking the lead over the summer on helping fill the gaps that we have in terms of process, and then also, like Nick said, at our LAUSD co-located campuses, we do have one point of entry, but I actually just had a conversation with Arlita today about revisiting the ingress and egress opportunity during the school day at the Vanguard campus where Box and Clarion are located. And we're going to see if there's some adjustments that we can make there to make it more secure.
And I can add if you want to the LAUSD co-location, since I'm on the LAUSD co-location. We do, as Nick said, have a shared radio that we can communicate with the co-location, but also the lockdown procedure. If the local law enforcement communicates with our co-location, they can communicate through the PA system with us. So then we all go on lockdown.
Wonderful, thank you.
Given that a couple of the measures for parent involvement kind of are not applicable, there's especially like about fundraising, is there an ability to have those like removed, or is this a very standard survey given?
So I have used other survey programs where you can do that. This particular one, while you can remove them, it will stop comparing them to the standards. And so it's kind of an all or nothing if you want to see how you rank among other schools.
Got it, because the ranking is like more of a composite of those, that like area of the survey, not question by question.
I guess, yeah.
Okay, got it. Any other questions for Jake / Marissa and Nick? Thank you so much. It's good to see the participation up. I know a lot of that is the efforts in schools, and just excited to keep looking at the data and learning from our stakeholders. And we will wrap up this area of our agenda with Melody and a really exciting topic. We have our 5 and 10-year longevity recognitions, some really dedicated staff members that Melody's going to share with us.
Yes, give me 1 minute, Karen, and let me pull up my presentation so you can see their beautiful faces. All right. Go. Okay, so. All right, so here is our longevity appreciation for this year. So we will be honoring our 5-year staff. One of them we have the pleasure of being on the panel with today. 5 years to Jake Rogers, our awesome superintendent, and James Lim, who is our awesome desktop 2 support supervisors, supporting with all the IT needs for ICMS and ICS. They both reached their 5-year mark. At Box, we have Miss Aguirre, who is our school psychologist, Crystal Hemphill, who works with all of our kiddos, giving them access to great art education. She is our art specialist over there. Ms. Davison is one of our teachers, as well as Ms. Bardier. They've both, all 4 of them have reached their 5-year mark. So a big congratulations to them and a thanks. Ms. Aguirre also works for Clarion, so you see her face here again. Her work has been incredible. She is a person who gets shouted out by many of her employees as being ultra supportive to our new employees, and so we thank her a lot. Over at ICS, we have Miss Alawami, who is heading our 5th grade kiddos, Miss Fisher, who is our school psychologist at ICS and ICMS, Mr. Rosales, who is our administrative manager over there, and Ms. Mills, who has worked for our after-school program and also supports our students on the yard and in the classrooms. So big thank you to them. And again, you'll see Ms. Fisher here because she works for Ingenium Charter Middle School as well. And Ms. Ledesma, who is a strong teacher leader, holding many roles. She has been on tap with us, I think, for the past 4 of her 5 years, maybe all 5. But she is a great voice for her teachers and a strong leader over there, and we really appreciate her coming back every year. For our 10-year folks, we have Miss Maria Donato, who has held just about every role you can hold at a school. She was an amazing teacher. Before that, she supported our students as a learning facilitator, I believe. We sent out a Google survey to employees. For Maria, we sent it to all the teachers and all the folks at the CMO. And these were the words that some of our folks used to describe Maria. We also asked what was the top value that these folks expressed or that you see in them, and hers came back as equity, which is just awesome. We have some memorable quotes there. And so just really impressed with Maria and her body of work, now working as our ELD coordinator and all the great reclassification data we heard about today. So really exciting. Thank you. A big thank you to Maria. Ms. Dishian is our administrative manager over at ICMS. She's worked at ICS, working with our food service, and a lot of words to describe Ms. Dishian you see there. The top value expressed by Araceli is relationships. And so Misty is always got a smile on her face and is always ready and willing to support. So a big thank you to Ms. D. Miss Nan has reached her 10th year and is also headed into retirement. Miss Nan is a woman unlike any other, and those of you that have had the pleasure to meet Miss Nan, you know she's all bark and no bite. She's got a giant heart, and we have a lot of amazing words to describe Miss Nan. She allegedly has a reputation as a child whisperer over there at ICS. I know when I was there, she created a leveled library for our students and ran a social emotional program. And she's beloved by kids and staff. And the top value expressed by Miss Nan is relationships. We're really gonna miss Miss Nan over there. She seems like a bit of the heart and soul of ICS, but we know it's a good time to rest, and she'll always be welcome back to volunteer any old time she likes, and we hope she won't disappear from our school. She's great. So that is our longevity presentation. And I'll turn it over to anybody else at the cabinet level that wanted to say anything about any of our 10-year folks or had any other words to share. Okay,
Is it okay if I share something? I just wanted to say I've had the pleasure of, I believe it's my 9th year, so I know I'm right behind everyone, but a part of the reason I enjoy my job so much is working with some of these people continuously throughout their 10 years. And I know that they've all supported me in different ways and have contributed to who I am, as well as pushing our schools to be the best they can be. I feel like I'm just so privileged to get to work with all of them. I know Ms. Donato and I are teammates on the curriculum instruction team, so I get the pleasure of learning from her all the time. But I know how much I've appreciated getting to know Miss D. While I may not have gotten to work with her, I got to teach her son, and I did get to work with her in some capacity, but just always enjoy getting to see her. And then Miss Nan, she knows. I hope she sees this. I'll have to give her a big hug. She's been there when I was teaching there, and and working there. And I always enjoy getting to go back and get those smiles and hugs. So I just wanted to say thank you to all of them that have made my Ingenium experience better just because they're here too.
Yeah, I'll say it's always a pleasure I love looking at these faces. It's a pleasure to see them here and see them on campus. And these are, I'm glad these people have been here. These are people that we would want to be here for 5 and 10 years and longer. So they're great contributors. So thankful for them.
I'd just like to echo what both Katie and Jacob said. I've met every one of these folks. They're fantastic people. They really make Ingenium a family. I worked with Miss Nan over Zoom. That's the longest time I've worked with her over Zoom, like last year or a couple of years ago when we went into lockdown, and she had such fantastic ideas. You know, she would say things like, "I'm not great with tech, but I could tell you how to." It was just like really cool to hear her like share. You know, James. James has been with the organization for I can't believe 5 years, and I remember him starting it at Clemente and just being like, I remember there was this thing that I think we did like a little like beginning of the school year like video, and everybody called him like Superman because he's like the Superman IT guy that went between all the Clemente campuses, and he just kind of like he wore a cape in the video, and just like he's still that today. So like really excited about that. Miss D at ICMS, always a pleasure to work with in terms of all the things that she does for that campus and how communicative she is. Just everyone on here have been fantastic, and just like Jake said, gosh, people like them. That's why I come to work. It's just like working with these folks. So congratulations to everyone on 5 and 10 years. Awesome. Thank you.
And for those of them listening, the 10-year folks, we're working on a nice way to present all of the lovely things that people shared about you, because you guys need to read it. It was really heartwarming to read all of the amazing things about these folks, and I didn't have time to read them all today, but they will get to read them themselves, which will be awesome.
Yeah, from the board, I just want to really appreciate everyone. Not only are these years of service to Ingenium, but all of these folks bring that institutional knowledge. I recognize all of these faces because they're leaders from their classrooms, from their positions. I see them mentioned on surveys as supporting folks at their schools. So really leveraging the experience that they have, the 5 years, the 10 years. And it's exciting to see those faces pop up. And, I hope that it'll be another 5, 10, 15 plus that they will be contributing. So thank you from the board, and Melody and team, thank you for sharing this with us. It's fun to see their faces and be able to celebrate. I think with that, we will move into our consent items. I'll pause and just really thank the staff. A lot of great presentations. I know it's a busy time of year and you put a lot together for us. So thank you so much. As we move into consent, do we have a motion to approve our items for consent?
I so move.
I second.
Jennifer, please take the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Way,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
And we'll move into item 6, items for discussion action. Item B, the final budget. Before we move to approve, are there any questions?
Oh, no question, but I think it will be a great idea to have some sort of executive summary that highlights the key assumptions and also shows the consolidated budget.
I can address that, Wallace. In the last month, there was an executive summary on the budget. There were not, the only changes that we found were that when I had not at that time allocated all of the health and welfare benefits out to the resource codes. So the big one was the pickup of additional ESSER revenues to capture the costs that were for the staff that is being charged to those restricted codes. So that created actually an increase in your revenues. But there is a complete summary. None of the baseline assumptions or information in there changed. This was more about once it gets put into the SACS format and you're balancing some of the funds and some of the fine tuning. We also had some updates with your insurance costs. They're higher than, like everything, they were higher than the original exposure draft, and workman's comp, bringing that up to your actual payroll base. So the majority of the expenditures are, and it is fairly similar. Last month's report would be something you'd want to look at, where the side-by-side in comparison to the current year were presented, and the executive summary. So I apologize for not submitting that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, that probably next time. Thanks.
And I'm sorry you weren't there.
Any other questions? All right, with that, do we have a motion to approve the final budget for the 22-23 year?
I move to approve the final budget for the 22-23.
I second.
I second.
Please take the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Wei,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. And we'll move to item C, approval of the EPA spending plan for fiscal year 22-23. Are there questions? Not hearing questions, do we have a motion to approve the EPA spending plan?
I so move.
A second.
Please take the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Wei,
Yes.
Mr. Randall.
Yes.
And we'll move to item D, approval of the Solution Tree contract. Are there questions for Katie on the Solution Tree contract? Not hearing questions. Do we have a motion to approve the Solution Tree contract for 22-23?
I move.
I so move.
I think we can, Joe move, Wallace second. Jennifer, can you take the roll?
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Wei,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. And we'll move to item E, approval of the contract with Sheba Jacobs for 22-23. Are there questions on this contract? All right, and we'll move to, is there a motion to approve the Sheba Jacobs contract?
I move.
I second.
Please take the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Wei,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. And now, slightly different format. We will move into, we're able to have our public hearing and approval of our LCAP tonight. So we'll start with item F, our LCAP public hearing for all 4 schools. And there is a dial-in number to join the call. I will open the public hearing at 6:20 p.m. for comments. Jennifer, is anyone on the line?
There is no one on the line at this time.
With no one on the line, I will close the, well, I will wait a minute. Hold on. We will wait a minute and then we will close the public hearing in just a minute. All right, I will close the public hearing at 6:21 p.m. And we will move to item G, approval of our local control accountability plan, or LCAPs, for 2022-23. Are there questions for Katie and staff? Not hearing questions, do we have a motion to approve our LCAP plans?
I move to approve the LCAP for 22-23.
I second.
Jennifer, please take the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Way,
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. So we will move to item H, and this is the election of our board members to the Board of Trustees. Wallace, Nadar, and I are all up for re-election of terms for July 1st of this year through June 30th of 2025. Do we have, I should ask Joe, will you move to nominate and elect us to the Board of Trustees?
I move.
Jennifer, can we second?
Yeah, anyone can second.
Okay, great.
I second.
Thank you.
Except Joe. Anyone but Joe.
I think I heard Nadar.
I said second.
Perfect. Let's take the roll.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Ali,
Yes.
Way,
Yes.
and Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you to my fellow board members, Nadar, Wallace, for your ongoing service. Joe, of course, your ongoing service. Appreciate you and your time in this volunteer role so much. I'm excited to keep collaborating.
You're certainly welcome.
We'll move to item I, and this is our annual election of officers for the, I think a typo there, for the 22-23 school year. And I would like to nominate Joe Randall for the role of board secretary. Do we have a motion for Joe to serve as the position of secretary?
I so move.
I move to have Joe be a board secretary.
And Jennifer, we nominate all, correct? And then we'll vote?
Everyone nominated, and then we will vote once.
Thank you. And then for board treasurer, I would like to nominate Wallace Way. Do we have a motion?
I second that motion. I second that motion.
And for the position of board vice chair, I would like to nominate Nadar Ali. Will someone move to approve Nadar?
I move to approve Nadar the vice president.
And Jennifer, I will second.
We need a nomination for president.
Oh, pardon me. I would like a motion to nominate. I'd like to nominate Catherine Hamilton for the position of board chair.
I second.
My nomination that's not a motion for me, is it? I mean, I moved to nominate her. Do I? Well, I guess that is a motion. Just need a second.
Jennifer,
Mr.
what
Randall.
else do you need from us?
You guys are doing great. So we have 4 nominations for positions on our board for next year. They have been motioned and seconded. So we just need a vote. So we will do a roll call.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead and call the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ali.
Yes.
Way.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Jennifer, for guiding us through that. With that, we'll move to item 7, our board meeting evaluation and planning for next meeting. Can you remind us of our next board meeting now that we are reaching the end of the year?
We are off until August the 15th.
Great, thank you.
Unless something comes up.
Of course. As we evaluate our meeting tonight, is there anything that our board members would like to share went well or would like to improve?
I still have, I love the inclusion of the school reports. That really helps. It really helps to put names to faces, and also to see in somewhat real time what the kids are doing. It really means a lot to me. So I vote to continue that even into the next year.
I could open all the pre-rate documents, so that's great, except one, which is I think the longevity presentation. So when I try to open that, it says the no preview available, file is in owner's cache. So for some reason, I'm not sure if it's for me or for other people as well.
I had the same issue, Wallace. So if we could just relink that document or a newer updated copy, that would be great.
That was the longevity one? I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll take care of it right now so it'll be available to you.
Yeah, I'd love to be able to go back and see some of those quotes and items shared about each person. I really appreciate the thorough reports and our ability to review them ahead of time, especially Katie and Maria. I know there was a quick turnaround with testing windows and getting data, and so I appreciate that the thoroughness, knowing you got a quick turnaround. With that, I want to appreciate my again fellow board members, especially as we're starting new terms and new offices, and really appreciate all staff. 5 years and 10 years of service, and then our cabinet who have been with us on these meetings, and our principals for another year of just great work for our students. So congratulations and completing another year. My son is also telling you that. I'm sorry, he's very loud right now. And with that, I will ask, do we have a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting?
I would like the motion to adjourn the meeting. Second.
Please take the roll.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Ali.
Yes.
Way.
Yes.
Randall.
Yes.
Thank you. Our meeting's adjourned at 6:29 p.m. You let us know when we are off the air.
Chris, are we off or still alive? Okay. Thanks, everybody.